You're listening to Setting Course, an ABS podcast. Join us as we navigate the latest trends, developments, and challenges facing the rapidly evolving maritime and offshore industries. Catch every episode at www.eagle.org and podcast platforms everywhere. Hello and welcome to the show. I'm John Snyder, managing editor of Riviera Maritime Media, and I'll be your host. With the marine industry undergoing rapid changes to meet IMO's net zero targets by 2050, more stringent international and regional regulations designed to lower CO2 and greenhouse gas emissions from shipping are driving the uptake and investment in new ships, low and zero carbon fuels, new engines and technologies, digitalization, and seafarer training. Clearly, the industry is in for a decade of change. To offer valuable insight into these changes, the state of the industry, and how ABS and class are responding, we have with us Vassilios Kroustallis. Vassilios is the Senior Vice President for Global Business Development and Global Marine at ABS. Vassilios, welcome to the show. Vassilios, let's jump into it right away. Certainly in this time of rapid change, how is class changing and how is ABS responding to that change?
Okay, John, I do believe you mentioned the decade of change. That's a very good term that you mentioned. Yes, indeed, we're inside now this transformation. We're in the decade of change. For a number of reasons, I can elaborate later on perhaps, but one is the need and the regulations, but also the capacity. We're capable of such a change because we experience technological news and capabilities that humanity never had before. Relative to the change now, in response to all these technological advancements, the classification societies like the American Bureau of Shipping are evolving. They are increasingly focusing on sustainability and digitalization, the two famous words, yes, and with the innovation that comes along in the maritime technology. ABS is adapting by developing new standards and certifications for green technologies, enhancing actually digital services for ship performance and performance analysis, and working on guidelines for alternative fuels and energy efficient designs.
Now, Vassilios, you mentioned new technologies and digitalization. What do you see, I guess, as the most important developments in technologies and digitalization to help industry meet IMO's net zero targets?
Okay, so let's start from the beginning here. First of all, there is the need. I'm mentioning the need because need is always the father of innovation, right? Many will say. So the need is the climate change and the regulations. And the regulations is not just IMO, starts from United Nations, it goes to IMO, yes, but then becomes regional also, like EU, ETS, and many others, the Chinese regulation, even the USA regulation, and so on. And then the other element we have to think about is the capacity. We're capable nowadays for a number of reasons again. The one and the most important, yes, it is the technology. I shall mention the satellites. They have become powerful nowadays and they can transmit data, big data, like we never experienced before in humanity. So we can move ahead with the 5G technology that comes along and the artificial intelligence and the big data analytics to autonomous ships, to new engines, to new fuels, to new materials even. So all this together is what is helping us to develop and comply with IMO's net zero targets. And of course, other significant drivers, because you did mention some drivers, would include geopolitical factors like international trade dynamics, regional regulations, as we spoke, and economic consideration to push sometimes for energy independence and security, and particularly in the context of volatile global politics and fluctuating oil prices also plays a crucial role in accelerating the shift towards alternative fuels and energy efficient technologies.
So, in regards to maritime decarbonization, then, is it a question of our ability to deploy technology in time, or is it our ability to deploy technology we already have at scale?
Very good question. I would say, is it technology or economics and availability? I want to give an example here, perhaps. Consider how many ships we have now that are dual fuel. I mean, how many ships we have in the water, right? It's many. But the question is, out of all these dual fuel ships, how many are really burning an alternative fuel? Very few. So what does it tell me? It tells me that the technology is there. The technology in a percentage, if you will, it's there. We have the ships ready in the water trading, fully capable of burning an alternative fuel. The question is why they don't. And if you search around, you will see, and you will go around two words: availability, because it's not always available, and pricing. Even if it is available, it is expensive in comparison to anything else you have for now. So I would say it's rather economics and availability that will dictate when we're going to have. Here is a good indicator, perhaps, if you like to consider, will be how much green electricity we can produce. Because you need the green electricity to produce the alternative fuels at a scalable level at a reasonable price.
Right. So, do you see then? I mean, how are you guiding your clients in regards to the transition? If they, for example, you had mentioned there are a large number of dual fuel ships now being built, which of course gives them the flexibility to burn these alternative fuels, whether they're low or zero carbon fuels when they're available. But how are you advising your clients in regards to that path on decarbonization?
Okay, there's a number of items here that we need to consider. First of all, we're running out outlooks and see how all these alternative fuels will evolve. Let me give you some statistics here. Last year, I mean 2022, if you examine 2022 new buildings, you will see 50% of them were dual fuel, and 86% out of it was LNG. Okay, now if you examine next year, 2023, you will see again 50% of order book is dual fuel ships, but now the LNG is 68% because methanol comes into the picture now with a 31% of all the ships on the last year, 2023, being methanol dual fuel. Okay, this gives you just a flavor, if you will, of how the fuels are developing. Our long-term prediction 2050. I'm not talking about the next decade now, but longer term, is that the oil will not be the major fuel, but methanol and ammonia will be the major fuel. Okay, and of course, LNG is here and will stay here as it is, and in a more stabilized manner. So, one thing is you have to consider how the fuel is evolving, how the availability then evolves, what is the limits and the capabilities of the technology. As we said, we have technology on LNG, or we have technology on methanol. We almost there on ammonia. We have biofuels. We have already two hydrogen carriers. The hydrogen comes in as the mother of fuels, many will tell you. And of course, in all this, we shall not underestimate the batteries and the technology that comes along. The batteries are evolving. We're not yet to a technological state to have big ships cross Atlantic with batteries, but we very well have many hundreds of ships already fully electrical. And you have regions like Singapore, to name one, that have specific requirements by 2030, all harbor ships to be zero emissions. This means you're going to have either 100% biofuel or 100% electrical or 100% hydrogen. Some of the key drivers of the technological. Perhaps the small ships, small distances is one of the first sectors of the market to be totally decarbonized because it's easier. So we are around the LNG, the methanol, ammonia, biofuels, hydrogen, and batteries. This is where we are around now. Of course, the nuclear ships is another technology that comes along. It's considered much more safer than before. I don't know anybody who's going to build a nuclear ship next year, but it is too interesting to be ignored.
Now, Vassilios, it sounds like we're headed for a multi-fuel future. Is that how you see the path, depending on uh, the type of service, type of vessel, type of operation?
Yes, John, we don't have a golden solution. There is nobody who's going to tell you this is the fuel. So until we discover it, or we're capable of achieving whatever we want to achieve with current fuel, we're going to have a mix. We're going to have a cocktail of various fuels, depending from the geographies, from the type of the vessel. If you have an LPG, what are you going to burn? You're going to burn LPG. And if you have an LNG ship, you're going to burn LNG. So you're going to have a mix of all these alternative fuels we're talking about. Please remember, the only alternative fuel now with a significant infrastructure is LNG and nothing else. Okay, we're building up. I don't want to underestimate the trend of the other fuels. The other two is ammonia and methanol. But today, John, the only significant infrastructure we have available today is LNG. So this will be there, will stay there. The other two will keep developing. How fast we can go, I cannot really tell you, but definitely we're going to be living in the next decade and more with the cocktail of various fuels.
Vassilios, with all this new technology coming in, all these new fuels, what kind of safety considerations are there?
Yes, John, this is a very, very valid question and a fundamental question for ABS, as the common denominator on everything we want to do is, of course, the safety. So the unknown elements of new technologies to be used is something that bothers me and bothers us big times. And there's a number of elements here on the safety. Let me name one. One is the familiarization of the crew. How familiar is the crew to be on board a ship burning ammonia or burning methanol or a hydrogen carrier? We don't have that much of experience as a humanity on these ships. On ammonia carriers, we do. On ammonia burning, we don't. We're learning now. So here comes the technology, of course, among other stuff. And I would like to mention two elements. One is the simulation technology that ABS has developed very much. We have a simulation, our global simulation center is in Singapore. Simulation technologies are helping us to experiment, to play, to put different scenarios. So we're avoiding time, but above all, a lot of big investments. And we can do fast and in a very efficient way a number of simulations and simulate what is happening.
Vassilios, how is ABS changing to support the industry's journey towards decarbonization?
Yes, John, it's a very valid and good question. In many ways, I would say. Let me start with the joint development projects. We're participating in hundreds of joint development projects. Many of them are quite pioneering in the field of very large ammonia carriers, in the field of LNG/ammonia carriers, in the field of carbon capture of liquefied CO2 carriers. Many of them, of the projects I'm mentioning, are projects that we have announced, and are publicly available. We, of course, developing the rules, the guides, and the related documents and the approval in principles and the white papers that come along. In all these, we keep further developing our talent. We have to develop our talent relative to the new technologies and get talent if we need to get talent. And we created a new company belonging to ABS, of course, Waveside, to deal with the digitalization. And this is our digital front. And we have another organization inside ABS, the Sustainability Group of ABS, which has sustainability centers on a global reach, one in Houston, one in Denmark, one in Athens, one in Singapore, one in Shanghai. These are sustainability centers that assisting our clients and working together with our clients on the new fronts relative sustainability. I want to give you another example of the recent opened up LNG Academy in Qatar. It is a state-of-the-art training facility using latest technological methods. All ABS surveyors will pass by this academy for the LNG training, but also it's open to our clients. We have already clients taking the courses. It's 2 modules that you do in your office and 1 module that you do at the academy. At the academy in that location, because there is where we have most of the LNGs on dry dock. So the third mod will include 2 special surveys on an actual ship on board the vessel during dry dock. That's the only chance you have to get to see the cargo tanks as well. So we are about to announce a number of safety centers dealing with the safety concept of all these technological developments. We are announcing the technology centers. They're going to be dealing with materials, with engines, with technologies, strategically located, not only in Houston. We're opening up on the places that technology happens, and this is the China, Korea, Japan. And we have, of course, simulation centers. One I mentioned in Singapore, we have one more in Europe, and we have the Global Ship System Center. All these centers, the technological advancements and developments are giving you, I believe, a flavor of how ABS is evolving. Nothing of this was existing in ABS 10 years ago.
Vassilios, with only a few minutes left in our podcast, did you have any closing thoughts that you'd like to share with our listeners?
What comes in my head is this. We're in a decade of change. The changes we have in front of us are dramatic, big, and fast. We never experienced this before in the last 40 years, in the shipping industry at least, because if you really think about the last time we had a real revolution in shipping was when we changed from perhaps steam turbines to diesel engines. So we changed the fuel in the past, right? But at that time, at least we knew the fuel. Now we don't even know the fuel. So very challenging times ahead of us, but it's a great chance for all of us to deliver a better world for the next generation.
Terrific, Vassilios. Well, thank you for joining me today on Setting Course, an ABS podcast.
Thank you very much, John.
Thank you for joining us today on Setting Course, an ABS podcast. If you're interested in learning more about today's topic or listening to more episodes, visit www.eagle.org.